guess it really matters who supervises community corrections. But what has to be considered is we're dealing with people's lives. And to switch one person over here to get them supervised by this person or that person, the bottom line is, for us, although it's said that money is the bottom line, for one, we care about the people. And we put over 400 people on average a year into drug treatment. Every single year. That's inpatient treatment alone. That doesn't count outpatient treatment or other types of treatment. Over 400 individuals mainly from jail. We put into inpatient treatment across the state of Alabama and a few in Tennessee and Georgia. The times that we've said that somebody's tested positive where a judge maybe allow us to get someone into treatment or try to get someone into treatment without going to jail, I haven't had one instance where a person's been able to stay clean between that drug test and time to get to treatment. And when you go into Cedar Lodge, Sunrise Lodge, Caps, A Woman's Place in Tuscaloosa, Magnolia Ranch, you go into one of these places, they're not going to take you if you're dirty. So what do you do then? So sometimes the jail, to answer that question, even though, I mean, we're going to always have complaints. I mean, most people can't stay clean to get into treatment, and that's the heartbreaking part of it. Because they're doing what they know how to do. They use dope. And sometimes people are mad at us because we're taking their God away. That drug. We deal with this every day. And I know this is just a program to most people, but we're there to help, and we see so many people's lives changed. They're not just a dollar, they're not just a name like even most counties are. It's just a name to somebody, or it's just a dollar. It's not to us. It may be a dollar, but it's a life. And it's the life of a parent, kid, or somebody like that in the family. So, and I think we'll always have those complaints out there when you operate a program like this. But I got many times more success stories than complaints over anyone in here. I guarantee you I could bring so many people in here that are not on the program, but that have been through the program that are still clean and sober. And that's the main goal. Thank you.
Getting back to the community corrections aspect of what you're considering undertaking, that is a specialized field, because you're talking about convicted felons in this program, and they have to be strictly supervised. The year's experience that the Browns have in operating this program is invaluable. You don't learn that from a school. You learn that from dealing with people. And they've been dealing with these folks for 19 years. So they know the ins and outs of the program. And you can learn that overnight. And it is a trust factor with the sentencing judge that we know when we send someone through that program that they are going to be supervised closely by this program. And that helps me sleep at night. And I'm sure Judge Ward could probably say the same, but if you don't have that trust in the program, then you worry a lot, because we're taking a chance by placing that individual at home rather than in prison. We're taking the chance that they won't reoffend and that there'll be other victims of their crime than what has taken place in the past. So it's a serious issue, and one that should be considered very seriously by the Commission before they undertake that program.
Judge Holt, you said that there were, that you trusted the program, that everything went correctly in the program. Gentleman from DOC mentioned that he has a compliance form for the state prisoners that go through the program. Is there anything in effect for our prisoners, our people that we refer? Do you do a compliance form, go through every now and then, randomly check 100 out of 500 of the people that go through there and make sure all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed?
I don't understand exactly, that's DOC does that.
Yes, ma'am, they do it for their state prisoners, but the people, local people that we send, maybe, I think my understanding is Scottsboro City uses the program also. You know, is there something in effect on the local level or in place on the local level?
Mainly I deal with felons. So Judge Ward might be in a better position to answer that.
I deal with misdemeanors. All my cases are misdemeanors.
But those people go through the
They are
program
not,
also.
they are not state DOC inmates.
Right.
They are folks that have a marijuana possession or whatever. I use court or community corrections for monitoring of mostly money. If somebody has gotten 6, 8 months behind, a year behind, whatever, and they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, I'll send them to community corrections so that they have to report to somebody and they go upstairs, they make a payment, they take that receipt to community corrections and somebody makes sure that they're making that payment. That's how I know whether they're making it every month. Community corrections, if they don't come in that month, they let me know. They get put back on a docket and it's like, okay, where you been? What's going on?
But as
There's
far as-
no monitoring of that. I mean, there's no forms or anything like that.
But I know of other people that are in the program that aren't state prisoners that have to go to drug testing.
That's a
That's
different
court
program.
referral.
Okay.
That's a separate entity.
But I mean,
Then
I'm just
community
asking in general, since we're here, is there a compliance form in place?
Yes,
Because I
they
have a
have to
question for
be.
him in a moment.
They have to, the court referral is supervised by the Administrative Office of Courts. They are the ones that evaluate their program, make sure that they're doing the things that are required as far as the protocol for approval of the court referral program.
So there's a checks and balances.
There is a checks and balances.
That's what makes it. One more question for you.
And I have not heard any complaints from AOC about our local court referral office.
Thank you. You said that if we decided to take over this program and everything, that you would be in place to advise us on how to go forward with that. Is there any way that you, or with the current program in place, advise us of how to move forward to maybe clean up for some of the complaints that we're hearing, make it a little bit more, follow the path or some documentation in place? Is there any advice that you could give us on that if we were to, contact your office? Is that something you're legally able to do?
Sure. And now, if I understand you correctly, you're saying assist you in addressing the various complaints that have been lodged against the current program or
Well, my
assist?
understanding in 1998, when the program was established, that maybe there wasn't an organizational thing that was totally in place. I've yet to be able to see that. I've asked to see that and I haven't seen that. So if we do take it, well, we got your an audience to answer questions. If we do decide to, do something to work on the program to, I guess like she said, checks and balances on that end, but the program that we're having issues with, would you be able to advise us on
Sure.
checks and balances of that
Absolutely.
program?
Absolutely.
I have where it was initially set up in 1998, if you like to look at it.
I have that resolution
Is that
also.
with Crown Road?
And I would like to offer, as far as any questions you have about either program, that my door is always open to answer any questions you might have about the court referral office or the community corrections and punishment office.
What is the dollar amount that's allocated to Jackson County? How is it based on? I mean, is it based on the number that run through the system? Or?
Yes, sir. Basically, every year, we ask the program to project. Each program in their plan will identify a specific number of offenders that they are able to provide supervision for. We ask the program to project what they think the eligible offender going through their program will basically be. We work with them on trying to come up with that. Then the department will carve out a portion of our budget to pay a per diem for the offenders that obviously go through any community correction program. But every year, we try to get some idea of how much money the department needs to set aside to pay that per diem in any particular county. That, I think we've touched on.
What amount are we've been allocated to this year?
Let's see, if I brought that with me, I can get that, absolutely. I don't think that I actually have that with me, sir, but it's a very easy thing to do. I can get that for you. As a matter of fact,
If that money
I can get it for you before I leave here.
If that dollars is not all used in that year, does it come back to corrections, or is it carried over and move forward, or?
What we do is this, we kind of pay after a service is rendered. Every month, the Jackson County CCP will send us an invoice. It will list on that invoice, and we pay roughly for a 2-year period, okay? They'll list every eligible individual on that invoice. Let's say Judge Holt sentences this, let's say there's 50 people on there now that's eligible for per diem. The judge sentences in the month of November, let's say she sentences 3 more people. So the end of November, and if they came today, the 16th, they'd be paid starting today through November the 30th for the month of November for those 3 additionals. We'll get an invoice, and we require that they send us documentation. If all of the documentation checks out, they're an eligible offender, they're correctly sentenced, and all of these other factors. And they'll request reimbursement, so we'll go through their numbers, and if their numbers are accurate, then we'll pay that amount. Now, for budgeting purposes, we set aside X dollars. I don't know what that necessarily is. Let's say for conversation, it's $100,000. Just say. We'll set aside $100,000, and then each month they'll be drawing down against that amount. Let's say, for example, the program exceeds that amount. More offenders go on the program than is expected, for example. And that goes to $120,000. Then we would, if the money is available to us in our budget, then we'll add an additional $20,000. By contrast, if the program gets through the fiscal year and it only invoices for $90,000, then there's no $10,000 that is basically set aside. Each year is a new budget year, and we make new projections on an annual basis. Of course, all of those are obviously tied to the legislature appropriating funding to the department. And if that funding for us, and several years ago, we had some budgetary issues internally, and so we had to cap what we could expend on community corrections. And when we have to cap it, then we obviously have to cap what we would ultimately make available to any particular program.
As far as the testing, is it done in-house? And if it is, how do you ensure the integrity of the testing? Do you have a lab technician at the facility, or one of you guys lab technicians? Or?
We have staff that collects the urine. We make sure the chain of custody form is that person testing. They sign it. It's sealed in a bag with the client's urine. It's sealed, and Family Life Center picks it up from our office and tests it with their testing instrument.
Can I ask who owns Family Life?
Gene Clegler.
Does he have anything to do with community corrections?
Sure. on the board of directors, along with 3 other people that are treatment providers of some sort, or involved in the drug treatment rehabilitation. And I guess when my dad formed all this, those people were placed on the board so that we could have access before many other counties to get people into drug treatment. That's why the people that are on the board of directors are on the board of directors. They're all treatment related.
And I think one of the things the statute requires in a community corrections program is that the plan that is submitted offer treatment options for the individuals that participate in that community corrections program. So that's where the drug treatment program is so vital to
I mean,
community corrections.
I think as a combination of both organizations to work together, if you have them separate, you're not in any way benefiting the client. I mean, if you separate those 2 organizations, it's not because, hey, we think this is better for the client. There's no way that can make sense. But, as Mr. Williams said, you know, going back to the community corrections, they do pay per diem for 2 years. I would say a high percentage of clients that report to our office that are Department of Corrections or state inmates, they don't pay for one reason or another. Some of them do pay. When they don't pay, let's say Department of Corrections pays us for 2 years per person. After that 2 years is up, you receive no money. And what do you, I mean, what
So
do
if they were serving a 10-year sentence, then the first 2 years you're paid by DOC, but the remainder of the client's sentence, you are not paid at all by?
That's correct. And let's say we have a guy that his EOS, his end of sentence date is 2031. He's going to report to us, this guy just so happens to not be able to pay us. And DOC doesn't pay us anymore. Well, it would be easy for me to say, well, he's not paying us, and Department of Corrections isn't paying us, we just won't supervise him as much. But you just can't do that. And
The judges wouldn't allow us to do that, for one thing.
Right.
The judges wouldn't allow us.
I mean, they have to be supervised, and I know it looks good.
And, you know, the clients that you have, they're convicted felons, and it's not easy finding jobs. And that's one of the things I have found with our program. They help their clients find jobs. They go out and actively look for employment for these individuals that are convicted felons. And it just helps everybody. It helps the individual, it helps their families, their children get the support that they need from that individual, and the community benefits, because those folks, rather than being in prison and costing the taxpayers money there, they are home, they're working a job, they're buying groceries in the community, they're buying gasoline in the community. They're putting back into the community rather than just being incarcerated.
Exactly.
And that's the beauty of the program.
And having them together, they pay us one fee rather than, because when somebody, most of them are, the judge orders them to complete court referral also, because it's a drug or drug-related charge. But when they come to our office, we don't make them pay community corrections and court referral. They pay one fee. Where if it was separated, that's just more money to the client that would pay. But
You said you sent them to rehab, like Cedar, what was it?
Cedar Lodge,
Would you name those places again for me, please?
Cedar Lodge, Sunrise Lodge,
Okay.
Caps,
Okay.
A Woman's Place,
Okay.
Olivia's house.
All right. Thank you.
My question on the lab testing, the lab that you send to, is it a certified lab? Does it have other customers other than you guys?
They're I mean, they do DOT drug testing. Ours don't have to be DOT drug testing, or tested, but, I don't know a lot about, I mean, the specifics of their lab. I know that based on the criteria that they have to report out drug screen results, that they have to report out, they're certified in every way.
I can answer that. Their lab is certified. I had a hearing on this. We took testimony a week or two ago, and their lab is certified. And I've never had a problem finding results from drug tests admissible.
Certified with SAMHSA or Department of Mental Health, State of Alabama, sir?
State of Alabama.
Thank you.
So, let me get this, so 1998, Mr. Crownover started the program. And then in 2000, you took it over?
I think that's right.
Or did we stop sending people to him because he didn't know what he was doing?
Dennis retired, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just curious, I mean, because there was a 2-year lapse. I mean, he had 2 years and he could have not
I
known
don't know.
anything.
It's 20 years ago. I think Dennis retired.
I
thought.
do I have to admit I was here?
I'll tell you one thing, when
I think
Mr.
he
Crownover
Yeah,
had it,
that's what I meant,
yeah, he retired, but,
He had one person.
he had one person on it.
DOC,
So,
and he had it for 2 years.
so the judges play a vital role, let's just say,
Yeah.
in who goes on community corrections and who doesn't.
Is there any other discussion from the audience this time?
Sir, I have one more question, if I may. Just, y'all have a board of directors there, and Mr. Brown is the director there. Being Mr. Kleckler and their professional advisor, which I think she's probably a master. She has a master's degree in psychology on y'all's board, and that's in the rest of y'all's board, of course, healthcare professionals, mental health, very commendable. Do y'all see any conflicts? I mean, I guess the conflict question, and I've reviewed your 990s. The conflict question goes to how do you choose who's going to do your testing? Because there are other test sites available here in the county and immediately surrounding us. Does the board vote on that, or is this is it a decision by Mr. Brown, or how do you go about that?
He has the authority to choose who, I mean, we could do our own testing in our office, we just choose not to.
They want to put a lab in our office. For 5 years, he's wanted to put a lab. I don't see no benefit in that. And I've heard it for 2 or 3 years. That's a conflict with having Mr. Clicker on the board, you know. And I talked to officer at F&B, and I talked to the officer at BB&T to go on their board. And can you imagine me calling one of them and saying, hey, I need some help getting this person in treatment? Mr. Collector, Family Life, if we've got someone in jail that doesn't have a penny to their name, and to get someone in state in treatment, they have to have an assessment, which has to be a master's level person. I can pick up the phone and he can have that done within just a day or so. So it's a selfish motive, you know.
With no charge to the client.
Yeah, with no charge. And he can pick up the phone and help us get in. Same way with the other board members. Their treatment, very treatment oriented people. And I can call and got to remember we got about 5 or 6 facilities, state certified treatment facilities, state. Now we can send them to Bradford for $35,000 if they've got the money or insurance. But these 5 or 6 treatment facilities, Mountain Lake, Pearson Hall, these other places, it's 67 other counties trying to get their people in there also. And I think we probably put more, and this is not bragging, we probably put more people in treatment, well, DeKalb County and us probably put more people in treatment than all the other counties put together. Because we believe in treatment. The judges, thank God that they believe in treatment. Because I'm sure it's judges around the county, or around the state, don't know what treatment is. So we have so much support with Judge Word and Judge Graham and Judge Hope that believe in treatment. But we're not the only people trying to get a person in a bed somewhere. ALC will not allow us to send to flop houses, and we wouldn't. So it's got to be state certified. So family members do call, screaming and hollering and saying that we can't get them in, we're not doing our job. It's just easier said than done.
Mr. Porter, did you have something?
Just sort of, unless there's other comments, as sort of a conclusion and summary is how we got here. The county got involved, the county commission got involved in this about a little over 2 years ago as a result of basically a records request for records regarding community correction. And at that time, the commission, there were only 2 of these commissioners were even here then, but we began to look at it and quickly determined that we did not have, the county did not have the documentation it was supposed to have. And we talked to Mike and Brandon about that. And so we just don't know. We don't have this information. And there, in 1988, as Judge Holt said, that there was a resolution adopted by the commission approving the incorporation of Jackson County Community Punishment and Corrections, Inc. as an entity. But there was no plan ever presented to the county for approval. Not from then, not until today, has the county ever approved a community corrections plan, which was supposed to occur. But it just never did. And I'm not blaming anybody for that. It just didn't happen. So today, the community correction plan that the county was supposed to have approved in 1998 before this program started just didn't occur. And like I said, Mike was not in charge at that time. Somebody else was. It just didn't happen. So, and the plan that we have, I think we've gotten a couple of versions of plans since then from Mike and from Brandon, and they began and referred to things in 2007. So we know that that was not a quote plan that was developed in 1998. So based upon that, we started asking other questions, and that's how we got to the request for the audit that was attempted from our CPA. So that's where we are, is from the county standpoint, how we got to where we are. We've got a number of, I think Mr. Morgan submitted a records request. Right. He got the same response that everybody else has, and that is we just don't have any records other than we have the resolution. So we know that that was done. We know that the corporation was formed as a nonprofit entity. We know that. We know they filed 990s. We know that. But as far as the records that the county has, they're just very minimal, and we recognize pretty quickly that the county commission had no authority over the court referral program. That has nothing to do with the county whatsoever. The community corrections program, we have a little bit of input because, again, we're supposed to get some payment from community corrections, and that was what the audit was about. We're also required to approve the plan, which had not been done. And that's how the county commission got involved in all this. So that's just sort of a summary of how we got from 2 years ago to where we are today.
Do we know how much the county has received as far as the community corrections program?
Yes, that's on file.
And what is that amount?
It varies each month, so you just have to pull a yearly detail. We get 2 checks a month from 2 different bank accounts, I believe it is.
And what does that average, do you know?
I would say maybe somewhere around 3,000 a month or somewhere in that range. Possibly with both of them combined, because sometimes the work release part is smaller than.
So like 83,000 in 3 years? Would that be correct?
That would be probably correct, because the work release part varies due to, I guess, the weather, seasons, or whatnot.
Can I ask you a question about with the 2 bank accounts, those 2 bank accounts in this audit?
Well, that was actually, I think Mr. Porter corrected me, Ryan, it was never called an audit, it was called he made it clear up front, that it was not an audit, that they couldn't do that, it was a informational.
Study or?
Facts finding.
Yeah,
It
it
was
was,
reviewed,
I
but
forget
they,
what he called it, but it was not an audit, they could not do an audit. So, but,
those two accounts were not.
they were not in the general ledger.
Did the community corrections submit a plan to DOC for the operation of the program?
Yes, we have a plan on file, yes.
So that could be provided to the commission.
Do you know what year that was dated?
Not without calling back and, we don't pay any per diems unless we have a plan that we basically approve. So every year, we ask the programs to provide us any updates that should be incorporated into their plan.
So if you
Several
had a
years
plan in 98 and they changed hands in 2000, then you would have gotten a different plan, right?
Oh, correct,
Well,
absolutely.
the year before
If it
last, we
changed.
provided a new
If we
plan.
change hands, you had a retirement.
If the plan changed, right?
Well, there are certain requirements within that we ask for. There are certain things that we want incorporated in the plan. And my office make those requirements known to the programs. So they have to have a current plan on file in our office. And we have a current plan on file in our office for Jackson CCP.
Have they complied with your request?
Yes, ma'am.
We provided a revised plan as required, not this past fiscal year, but the one prior to that. Policies and procedures, the plan, and some other documents, audits, or financial statements, or whatever was required, and we provided all that in order to get the executed contract that we received that year.
And this is a program, back in 1998, they didn't have community corrections programs throughout the state. We had a problem with the prisons being overcrowded, and alternatives were looked into, and that's how this came into being, is folks started saying, let's do some community corrections programs. And so that's probably why you don't have all the documentation that you wished, or that we wish we had for it, is because it was something new. And, you know, we just didn't have the experience there.
Yeah, that's very accurate, Judge. In 2003, the Alabama Sentencing Commission revised the Community Punishment and Corrections Act. And one of the revisions in there was that there were probably about 25 or 30 revisions to the Community Punishment and Corrections Act. But notably, one of the things that occurred during that period was the requirement that the Alabama Department of Corrections establish a Community Punishment and Corrections Division. And that occurred in the Department of Corrections in 2005. So after that, and after we started revving up and developing that division, then we started developing more specific rules and policies relative to the statute. And then as those things, over time, we start making that known to the programs, and then making requests of the programs in the planning, the application process. So over the last 10, 12 years, you've had some evolution in those specific requirements.
With all the information that we received today, I'd like to make a recommendation to the commission that we table this discussion until December 4th work session. Give us time to go over a little bit of what we obtained today. Got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. All opposed say no.
Mr. Chairman, can I say one last thing?
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to say that the Alabama Department of Corrections, State of Alabama, we're not taking a position in ever how the county chooses to move forward. We want to be here to support the current program. If there's a different direction, then whatever we can do to support that. But our role here is not to advocate in any particular direction. Having said that, we have no complaints in our office, either from our staff or from the public, relative to the Jackson County Community Correction Program. And we've worked very well with the current program. We just want to make that known. And whatever decision the county makes, and the Department of Corrections, the state of Alabama, we want to provide whatever assistance we can.
Thank you, sir. Next, we'll move on to new business. We don't have any. The next item on the agenda is comments from staff. Mr. Manning, do you have anything?
Nothing else.
Then we have comments from the commission. Ms. Gilbert. Mr. Sis.
I appreciate the time coming from Department of Corrections to kind of give us a little input on what's going on, and we'll just have to study it out further. Thank you.
Ms. Finley.
I'd like to thank everybody for coming and information provided.
Mr. Guthrie.
The only thing I'd like to say, like, the whole reason this come about was we feel like we need to do what's right for the people of Jackson County. We're not here to hurt anybody, any individual, any company, but, you know, when we as a body get complaints, and especially as many places we've gotten, and not just from, you know, if it was just from people that was on color code, it was, you know, bad because they had to pee in a cup, then we wouldn't even be sitting here. But this is coming from law enforcement, from, like I said, I mean, I've got a list of these people. So to me, we have a responsibility as elected officials, people of Jackson County, that we need to do what's right. So I think we need to make sure that we go through every bit of this information and do what's right for the people of Jackson County. That's all I got.
Thank you, sir.
Chairman, may I go ahead and say something?
Yes, go ahead.
Judge Hope, with the complaints that we are getting, is it okay to refer them to your office?
I would have more than been
Sir,
happy to
before you
talk with
leave, could I get an
those
overview?
individuals. 'Cause I have not had any law enforcement confront me about any concerns about our community corrections program or our CRO. Well, I can do something about it. I mean, the CRO, it seems
That's
like,
why they don't. I can tell you that's why they don't, because they're afraid to say anything.
well, I don't know why.
Well, I don't either. I mean, I don't care. I've come up here and talked to you about it before, but
Yeah,
they don't want
the
to.
CRO, that's the Administrative Office of Courts, and we can go round and round about that. But, you know, that's the Administrative Office of Courts, and they run that program. The community corrections, that's something that you need to look into and do what you think is best for the people of Jackson County. But I can just say that over my 20 years or 19 years of working the program, I've not had a complaint about it.
Thank you, ma'am. I'd also like to thank everybody for being here, taking time out of your schedule and all. This is a very important subject, and like I said earlier, we just want to do what's right for the citizens that we serve. That concludes everything we have for today's agenda. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no.